Hey guys, if you're enjoying the content that I'm making, please click that subscribe button. Also remember to click that bell button and make sure to tick that box to send all notifications so you don't miss out on any videos. With that in mind, let's get on with the video. What's up guys, welcome to Munchkin's Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Munchkin's logging in to bring you another episode of Adventures Chat Log. And this week we're going to be covering one of the most popular conversations that's happening in the official forums for Final Fantasy XIV, is that should enrage timers be completely taken out? Okay, in this video, I want to sort of place the argument of the original poster and my counter arguments to his or her points, I suppose, as to why I'm opposed to getting rid of the enraged timers. So the first one is, this is what he said, is, quote, "Here's the truth. The game is made by the devs to encourage as much DPS as possible. This is largely as a result of enraged timers and other DPS checks. If you don't meet the DPS checks, you wipe, simple as that. And since we're not all uber guso top 0.2% players of our classes, it means everyone has to pull their weight and a bit more. Every GCD not spent optimizing damage is a GCD that could mean X deaths meteors your group instead of transitioning to Neo. So I say let's get rid of enraged timers." Now my counter argument to this first one is you don't actually need to be 0.2% a top player of your job to actually, clear the extreme and to clear the savage modes of these fights. I mean, if it's gonna be like that, you might as well just do normal, because the savage mode is there for the players who want a little bit more challenge. But if you're a casual player, you can still do it. It just takes time and practice. And you might say you don't have the time for it, but actually you can just go in at any time, And if you really want to, gain something, you should be able to work hard for that something. So, and this 0.2% is just, I know it could be just like an extreme that, the original poster is saying, but at the same time, people actually die during the fights, and that's DPS that's decrease, but you can still finish the fight even with multiple deaths. So in this sense, it's actually quite forgiving already. It's not like you die and then that's it. You die, you get raised, you get back into the fight, and you still have a chance to actually beat it. Now granted, if there's multiple deaths, then there's no way that you can beat it, but that's experience you do gain. So that's my counter argument for that one. Okay, so on to the next point. It says, quote, "Why do we even have them anymore? Every single encounter in this game is already gated behind a player level or an item level. Barring certain exceptional circumstances, if you don't have the IA level or character level to enter a certain duty, then you just can't enter it. So if a person has the ability to enter a duty, why further restrict their ability to complete said duty by imposing another arbitrary hurdle to overcome? SE apparently doesn't want people using DPS meters because of reasons, yet they build encounters in a game that implicitly encourage the kind of behavior they say they are against. Fine. You want to stop this kind of stuff, SE? Then stop it with the enraged timers," end quote. So this is a little bit tricky, because the item level is there for you to enter a sort of like in a dungeon where you're with random people. It's sort of expected for that item level, even if there's multiple deaths, that you will actually be able to beat that certain raid or dungeon. If you are in a full party, the item level requirement is usually not required. This means your group, the people that you know that can push their DPS to the max, can actually enter a raid or a dungeon that they are well below their eye level, can still enter, but they think they can beat it because they know their jobs well enough to do it. So this is, and this goes on to the next paragraph of what he says about like average players, you know, just the close knit group of average players going into a dungeon, and maybe it'll take them 60 minutes to fight O4S, but they can still do it because they're doing the mechanics right. Do you know how boring that fight would be if you are there for even like 20 minutes fight? I mean, barring ultimate coil, of course, because that's gonna take you like that long. But that was designed for like the most hardcore player ever, you know. But the extreme and the savage mode raid tier that we get normally, they're for mid to hardcore level, even casual even. And just imagine if, okay, so you get 8 people that can sort of do the mechanic for every single one, and there's no enrage timer. Think about that. Most people will either bring like 4 healers and 4 tanks because they know that if they do the mechanic right, they will actually, you know, they will actually beat that because they won't die, because they have 4 healers that can heal them over time and revive them if they, you know, mess up. That's how messed up that idea is of removing enrage timer, because if you have a tightly close-knit group, you actually don't need to have like 4 DPS or whatever, you know, the party compositions, unless the SE sort of restricts it that way. Then I guess you do have some kind of a point. But at this point in time, like if you can go in as like 4 tanks and 4 healers, then, you know, you'll survive every fight, and the tank stance can be taken off, but you still have the high HP, so you'd survive most of the actual like raid damage. You can even use cooldowns to reduce the damage that is incoming. So I feel like these 2 points, that doesn't make any sense to me. And while I understand SE like sort of banning, like, you know, DPS meters or whatever programs that you use, if you actually don't say anything, they're not doing anything, because it's not that they're opposed to it, they're impartial with it. So, you know, it's to the point where, hey, like, okay, here's an example for another game, Pokemon Go. So Pokemon Go bans people who are actually not using the map hacks or something like that to catch the Pokemon, but they're actually banning people who are actually using, you know, or running the websites to run the map hacks, so you know where the Pokemon spawns. So it's sort of like that. So that's a completely different game. You can still use the map hacks, and the Pokemon devs can't do anything about it because they actually don't know that you're actually using it. So that's how I feel about this. You know, as long as you stay quiet, don't use it, or you don't sort of abuse people with it, then more power to you. You can use it, and it's for your own personal benefit. And honestly, I like the idea of enrage timers. It just makes you a much better player, and try to push yourself to be the very best that you can. And if you guys have seen my videos, I've always been in the side of making yourself a better player rather than, you know, laxing off. Even in the time where I've talked about tanks having to DPS or healers needing to DPS, it's just to the point where you actually get good, you know? It's not something as you shouldn't be doing it. I mean, tanks and DPS, I mean, tanks and healers shouldn't DPS. But I mean, if you are very comfortable with your job, why not? You know? Why not do it? Like I said, like tank stance and, you know, the healers doing DPS, actually, they actually don't need to do that for you to beat the content that I'm sure that they have tested this. You know, like a tank will be in pure tank stance and they would beat that floor or that raid. At least I'd like to think they've tested it that way. So I'm a firm believer that even in a pure tank stance, you can do it. It's just that, you know, it takes time to learn the fight. Anyway guys, I think that's it for this video. Remember to click like, subscribe, and share this video if you find it helpful at all. As always, I'd like to hear from you guys what you think of this enrage timers, and you can leave a comment down below what you think of them. And as always, you can follow me on Facebook and on Twitter at Munchkins Gaming. This is Munchkins logging off, and I'll see you guys in the next level.